Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. As many of you are quite aware, I cover a good number of asset flips and other fake games on my channel. From the ill-fated Silicon Echo to the extremely toxic Burny and Andrew Watt to any other number of deplorable crap peddlers that shovel their wares onto the Steam storefront as fast as they possibly can. Along with all of the amazing people at Sentinels of the Store, we uncovered just how far the rabbit trail went in regards to these fake games and figured out the means and methods as to the how and the why these asset flippers do what they do. But in recent days, I've been seeing a slowly increasing number of questions in my video comments that I find to be somewhat troubling. And those questions all follow along the lines of the simple phrase, why should I even care? And most of those people state, and accurately so I might add, that they never even see these games anyways, so why should it even matter? How does it affect them? Well, in my normal, abnormally long-winded way, I'm going to tell you. It does matter, and it does make a difference. But before we get started, I think it's important to define what an asset flip is. I've had countless indie developers ask me when it's okay to use pre-made assets in the past, to the point where I dedicated an entire video to that exact topic, and I'm not the only one. Jim Sterling also released a video in recent days discussing that very same topic as well. Now, first off, the major hallmark of an asset flip is exactly that. It's a flip. It is almost always an unmodified Unity Store or Game Guru asset package that can be obtained either through those storefronts or through more illegitimate means. The entrepreneurial asset flipper then takes that pre-bought asset package, rebrands it, and then pawns it off onto the Steam storefront with a new title. This is all perfectly legal, unfortunately. If it weren't, then Valve would have clamped down on this nonsense long ago. Secondly, sometimes you have an asset flipper like Digital Homicide who would make exceptionally minor changes to their pre-bought assets and then publish them as entirely separate titles. This is also a very common practice and one that thankfully makes them easier to spot. However, for those indie developers out there that are concerned with being labeled an asset flipper, don't. The simple fact that you care enough about what it is you're doing means you are a person who is invested in actually designing and developing a game. That, in and of itself, differentiates your actions from that of an asset flipper. You put something of yourself into your game. You make it your own. Even if you bought a complete package to serve as a framework for your game, if you put in time, effort, and some original design work, then you have a game, not an asset flip. Next, we should discuss why asset flips exist to begin with and how they work. Of course, their desire is money, nothing else, but how do they get it? Well, that is actually sort of a tiered process with multiple different avenues of income, so let's outline the major steps that we know of for certain so far. Now, first, there are the legitimate game sales. I know that most people avoid these games like the plague, but asset flips and fake games rely on those that enjoy achievement hunting and Steam trading card collecting for badges. These people are a very small segment of the total number of people on Steam, but they do exist and will buy even cheap garbage if it will help them grind out an achievement or a badge. It is their very existence that has brought about the recent wave of achievement spammer asset flips on the platform. These are put out in order to entice those people to their game to artificially generate what Valve would consider to be, quote, player engagement, which will get them to that magical zone where Valve will allow them to activate Steam trading cards. This will generate a large amount of interest to card farmers out there and will help to increase the value of the trading cards when they first come out. Next is, of course, the gray market. One would think that Steam's placing a cap on review keys that can be generated would have decreased this slightly in recent days, but judging from the sheer number of asset flips that have been pushed onto Steam, thanks to the new Steam Direct, they have only been able to step up production. Thanks again to the new Steam Direct, that was supposed to be but one part of the larger puzzle that solved this whole issue. All aspects of pretense have instead been removed, as asset flippers no longer even need to keep up the pretense of lying to people in order to get their garbage onto the Steam storefront. It is still commonplace to see 50, 100, sometimes as many as 250,000 keys generated for sale by these asset flippers. They then turn around and sell those review keys on the gray market for usually between 1 and 5 rubles a piece to the Steam trading card bot farmers who most notably purchase these asset flips in batches of a few hundred to tens of thousands. Now, other keys they give away or sell to bundle sites or other sites like G2A in order to drive human engagement so they can get trading cards enabled on their titles faster and to earn a little bit extra money. Next are the Steam bot farms themselves. These are hundreds or sometimes thousands of accounts that are used to farm the games loaded into them for their trading cards. These asset flippers fuel their own bot farms with their titles and sell games off through a variety of other means. This will allow them to generate cards to be sold or traded, but the vast majority of them simply turn the cards in for gems. You see, with gems, you're able to craft card packs for other games that contain far more valuable cards or simply sell the gems off. These bot farmers, just as with any stockbroker, pay attention to market trends as well as new popular titles where they might be able to sell card packs for a higher amount of money more rapidly or trade them for still other items like CSGO, Team Fortress 2, or PUBG crates or keys. Along with those are the foil cards, which are far more rare and of course more valuable items. These are much easier to sell to people wishing to craft premium badges or for those that are simply collectors. And of course, along with those are game emotes and backgrounds that again can be sold for a decent amount of profit when one factors in having hundreds or thousands of accounts to fuel them. And make no mistake, these people are masters at stretching a dime into a dollar, and they do it all day, every day. This is made very easy as there is no region locking for these sort of items, and to be even honest, even if there were, VPN services would quite readily circumvent that. And as I said, Steam Direct and its laughable $100 fee was supposed to severely curtail such behavior, but as these asset flippers are able to earn 10 times that amount of money from gray market sales without breaking a sweat, there's nothing implemented by Valve yet to remove the incentive to publish asset flips onto Steam. Next, we have the impact to game developers themselves. Now, while I know that many gamers out there simply do not care, as it doesn't appear to affect them, the impact these asset flips have on indie developers cannot be denied. They quite literally get washed away in a sea of absolute mediocrity that all but guarantees that the only ones that will profit on the Steam platform will become a very select few indie titles alongside the usual tide of AAA games and asset flippers. Most of the rest will simply never get noticed. And that is one aspect that I can directly empathize with. But 1 year ago, I had 2,000 subscribers, and the most oft-seen comment on my channel was people wondering why my channel wasn't larger. I actually got another comment like that just a few minutes ago. It wasn't until I received a surprising shout-out and call to action from Jim Sterling that I was able to break through and get my voice out there to a wider number of people. That in turn raised the number of average views per video that allowed my videos to raise in search rankings that again caused more people to watch my videos. It's a situation where the more you succeed, the more you will. If I had never gotten that shout out, I probably would still be staring at fewer than 5,000 subscribers. It's the way of the industry. You do have to be good, but being good means nothing if you don't get lucky. I became one of the lucky few. I know that my current 70,000 subscribers sounds like a paltry sum, but it is a number that a surprisingly small number of channels ever achieve. But I'm getting off topic here with that. If I keep going down that path, then I will simply turn this into a thank you video, and that's not the purpose for me being here recording this. I just can't escape the number of parallels that can be made between how visibility affects a YouTube channel the same as it affects an indie game. Regardless, these asset flips make it just that much harder for indie developers to gain visibility and traction. And that actually ties into the question we're seeking to have answered here. How does this affect gamers? They don't see these asset flips in their discovery queues, so why would it even matter? Now, I racked my brain thinking on this for a while, drawing lines and links in the chain when I realized that I might have been overcomplicating the issue and perhaps a simpler approach might be the better option. Instead of painting a mosaic, let me instead provide you with an example. The game on your screen is, as many of you are aware, Stardew Valley. It is a simple resource management crafting game that has become widely popular. Yeah, but what does this have to do with asset flips, you might ask? Well, even if you weren't going to ask, I'm still going to answer anyways. This game was one of humble beginnings. It was developed by a single person over the course of 4 years. Now, first off, if I had known nothing about this game, if I did not see its overwhelmingly positive 70,000 reviews, or if I'd never even heard about it before, I would have simply passed this game off as being a simple RPG Maker game, which are about a dime a dozen on Steam right now, and I would have simply moved on. The game was put through Steam greenlight process, received a good deal of attention, which was boosted greatly by the game's media that picked up on the story, and the hype train was off and running. But let's look at this more analytically as opposed to saying, well, of course it did, it's a good game. You see, there are a lot of good games on Steam that have never been afforded the opportunity that Stardew Valley had. Many of them went through the same process even. They went through Steam greenlight, got approval, and got onto Steam. With Stardew Valley, people tried the game sight unseen from an unknown and unheard of developer, liked the game, and gave it a positive review as well as telling their friends about it. Steam Greenlight allowed people to get to know the developer, discuss their game with them, get questions answered, and for those developers that were in earnest as opposed to treating Greenlight like the wasteland of sewage and slime that it had become, this was a fantastic way to generate some amount of hype via those interested in the Steam Greenlight process before the game was finished. You see, people always say that it doesn't show up in my discovery queue so it doesn't affect me, but what if Stardew Valley hadn't become a media darling? What if it had released just like all these other games? It would appear to be just another RPG Maker title. At least until those willing to venture outside of their discovery queue give it a try, decide they like it, and keep playing it as well as leaving positive reviews. Those actions raise these games out of obscurity and put them into your discovery queues. They don't just magically appear there, it's all the work of algorithms behind the scenes which are fed by data like that, such as number of people who've bought the game, player engagement, number of positive reviews versus negative reviews. All of that goes into a decision-making process to raise the rankings of the video game. It takes people being able to find the games, though, and with an unprecedented amount of asset flips being released onto the Steam storefront, thanks again to Steam Direct, it makes it harder and harder to even locate these games by those willing to look for them. So what if? What if Stardew Valley got lost in that sea of asset flips? How would you even know what you were missing out on if it had never shown up in your discovery queue? How many other games out there were released only to be met with a titanic boom of silence from the gaming community? See, while you may not notice these asset flips, you're also not noticing a ton of other games. Some of them may be not so deserving, but some of them could have had the potential to be the next Stardew Valley. For every 100 asset flips out there, there's a Starbound waiting in the wings that fails to get noticed because it released alongside 20 other titles that were put there merely for someone to scam people out of money and to generate free money by selling keys on the gray market and farming trading cards. If there were fewer, or better yet no, asset flips on the Steam storefront, then those adventurous spirits that are willing to try new games and would be able to find good games more easily. And once they do that, more good games will rise up to be discovered by the wider public. So while these asset flippers are taking visibility away from indie developers, they're also taking away from gamers as well. They are taking away the potential for you to be able to even hear of, let alone play, some fantastic games. Stardew Valley was one of the lucky few, but it could just as easily have gone the other way thanks to the giant maelstrom of fecal matter that the Steam storefront has rapidly become. That's how asset flips affect you, at least the most direct reason. There are others out there as well, but we can start with the biggest and most simple. They're taking the potential of great gaming experiences away from you simply by their very existence. And this is yet one more in a long list of instances where what is good for the indie developer is good for the gamer. And what is good for both of them is to have these asset flippers and their mountains of crap ripped from the Steam storefront. But as always, please do let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments below. How do you feel about what I said here? Do you agree, disagree, or anything in between? And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time. If you like what I do on this channel and would like to see the channel go full-time, consider donating on Patreon or PayPal, as well as hitting that subscribe button and following me on social media. Links to everything are in the description down below.